Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Discussion Podcast. I have a very special guest with me, Jump Master Extraordinary, Class 66, Jump Master, Command Assignment retired, Orlando Silva. I've known this guy for a long time now, and I appreciate you, brother. Over 32 years, almost 32 years of active military service, retired as a CSM on the dock side, 7th Group, special operation. I tell you what, though, I went to full trial for special ops, and after I went over there, talked to somebody, I heard what you guys be doing. I was like, I'm gonna stick on this side of the house. I'm not doing that crap, man. Uh, the 32 years deployed both as far as Afghanistan, Iraq, Desert Storm, Desert Syria, countless amount of rotation in different operations center. Just outstanding guy, man. Currently serve as the GM Vice Commander for VFW over in West Virginia, where he resides. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Doing great. Good to see you. You haven't changed a bit since then.
I tell you what, though, since because you old jump master like myself over here, you got with 2,000 jumps. So I'm gonna tell you something, man. So it was 2004, 2005. I think we still had BDUs back then, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. We still had BDUs. But since the drop zone, it was a day jump, Hollywood operation, C-17, great exit aircraft, shoot open. You know how it is. It feels good. The wind was pretty good, according to the DZS, so it was 3 knots. You know what I mean, right? So everything was pretty good. Like I said, Hollywood jump, and right before I hit the ground, I was like, it's going to be an easy jump. Hit the ground, feet first, of course, the balls of my feet. But the biggest mistake that I made, I took my chin out of my chest. Hit the ground, bam. It just went blank. And then for some reason, my chute got a wind in it, and I was dragged across freaking Sicily drop zone, my whole left side, whatever. So before we get started, have you had any bad jump, any experience any bad jump so far?
Yes. One that I can remember. It was recent in my career because I prior to that I was never really hurt. I retired with 140 logs.
Man.
Now they didn't log many of them back then, but that's what was logged. And was in class 1095, Stay Alert, Stay Alive Jump Master School, which was May of 1995 when I went as a young E5. And so I stayed in the community jumping and all that, but when I got to 7th Group, it was MC6, which I wasn't familiar with. And I jumped with it when I was an ops sergeant major in 528 and got comfortable. There's a simulator which teaches you everything you need to know. It's a harness you get in and went through all the training, went through refresher to learn how to JMPI. And my battalion commander was jumping. He had broke his back in 1st Group, and we were doing the Nook. He was behind me. I was first. Jumpers followed me. Boom, we exited. But I was so focused on him, because as a battalion commander going to his next job, if he gets hurt,
Yeah.
career slower, and I was at the end of mine. So I jumped with him like he wanted to, and so focused on him though that by the time I saw where I was at, I was running with the wind. I had to do a full turn and a half break to try to slow down. It was a gaggle. I hit feet, butt, and I remember head.
Woo.
I'm laying there and I see my battalion commander about 200 meters away. He's like, "Hey, you all right?" And I'm like, And then I blinked and he was standing in front of me. So I knew it was.
You knew something was up.
Yeah, he can't cover that kind of distance that quick. I know for a fact. So, I got up. They had pinched a nerve in my back, so I looked real crazy, all wiggled up. So they gave me tramadol, took me in, and what it was a broken tailbone, and I herniated some discs in my back. And it was right at my second year in the seat, and the group CSM, which is a real good guy, he's like, "Look, this is your last assignment anyway, so we're not going to terminate you from position because your next replacement has been designated, and he has to be ops, because the PD model in SOF is real different than us.
Yeah.
There's no flexibility at that time in movement. This guy has to do an ops sergeant major job before you come. Stay in the seat. Just don't jump anymore. You'll be fine." But that was the hardest one.
Man, yeah, we had some tough jumps, man. There's night jumps. I had another one back in JRTC, Geronimo Drop Zone. We're gonna discuss that another time. So, hey, I just want to jump into it, man. Over 32 years of military service, a lot of sacrifice, right? A lot of movement around, a lot of deployment, a lot of rotation and training, different places. How did it all came about? You decided, I want to go and do this army thing. I want to serve and make a difference. What was the contributing factor in respect to you serving?
It was. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, Farragut Projects. If you ever heard of it. At that time in the 1980s, it wasn't conducive to success. For me, it was conducive to becoming a statistic, and that's something that I want to do at that time. And so senior year came in, and I remember number 7 train, Queens Boulevard Station. There's a recruiting station right there. And I just happened to stop, and at that time I welded, and I welded in high school, and went to go see the Navy because I wanted to be a Sealy. They told me, "Hey, look, the Navy and everybody else doesn't have contracts. Okay,
Navy, huh?
how well you're doing basic training is how we are going to go ahead and place you into a MOS. We'll give you a field. And I didn't want that. Like everybody else, I walked out. The Army guy was like, and did you weld? I said, yeah. He said, an aviation high school up the street. I said, yeah. He said, the Army has a welder. I said, yeah, right. He took me and showed me a video. And back then it was called 44 Bravo,
Yeah.
metal. The MOS doesn't exist anymore. I came home afterwards excited. I remember my parents were not excited at all because at that time it was the beginning of senior year. I was 17. I just turned 17, and my father definitely he complained about it. Long story short, they had to sign for me.
Yeah.
After I graduated high school, August 11th, 1988, I went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, which is a federal pen right now.
That's my state, man. I'm from Trenton, man. That's my state. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, I went there and did the AIT thing, and I did the airborne option because I just didn't want to be a regular welder.
Yeah.
And did all that. March 1989, I arrived to 19th replacement. Fort Bragg. It was a scary time.
Yeah.
And it worked great. I will tell you, the military was good. At that time, the military of the late '80s. I mean, it was a great time to be a soldier, to be airborne. There were so many things that were going on. But the 82nd, ooh, so you just couldn't beat it, though. You couldn't beat it. It was a great time to be in. Smoke bomb hill shot there. Gas was 90 cents a gallon. Box of Newports was $1. What else was there?
That is amazing. Some folks that I've spoken to, right, had problem transitioning from being out of high school with just into the military. When you first came in, basic training AIT, getting stationed back at Bragg, what was your transition into the military like? You from Brooklyn, you one of the five boroughs, a little bit different up there. So you had some level of pedigree. Now you got to listen, follow instructions and be placed at specific time and place in uniform. Because some folks kind of struggle with going through that transition process. How did you manage to transition into that from the civilian side into the military?
For me, I had both parents at home, and my father was a real strict disciplinarian. He grew up in the streets in Lower East Side Manhattan, Spanish Harlem. When it was time to come home, it was time to be there without question. So the discipline was there.
Yeah.
Now, basic training, it was shock and awe. At 17, but being from New York City and in that environment, it didn't really shock me too much. I had traditional Puerto Rican parents, so everything was loud. It didn't really bother me that much, to tell you the truth. When I got to Fort Bragg, being that I was young, there wasn't too many things I could do. I couldn't hang out with the guys.
Yeah.
Go to the and buy beer and hang out at the Utima Club or the NCO Club, but I was just too young. So it really wasn't hard for me to transition into that. And when you're that age, your platoon sergeants watch you a whole lot closer.
Yeah.
So there wasn't too much I can do because I didn't even have a license. So I was one of those guys who walked everywhere, and my platoon sergeant may have gave me a ride on my squad lead or something like that. So I transitioned real well into it. It was not an issue for me.
That's amazing. How will you describe, right? Because it's been a while when you first came in going through the ranks from E1 over to E7, E8, and E9. Because we have replacement. You just spoke of replacement. I think up to late 2004, 5. They still have replacement. So replacement went away. Now so it just shows up. They go on installation in process, and then we over receiving, and then they go back to the unit. How will you describe, right? Soldiers coming in today compared to when you came in? Of course, the Army have changed a lot. You being the battalion CSN, how was it? How do you describe soldiers coming in today in terms of getting received into the organization compared to when you came in where you got received into the organization?
Yeah, so I think I've seen it happen multiple times on Fort Bragg in different installations where you have a replacement detachment and then you have a sponsor.
Yeah.
I've seen both. In my opinion, I think for the time that I served in, you had to have a replacement detachment. It was just mandatory. Everybody knew where it was at. It was right on our desk,
Yeah.
right across from the museum.
Yep.
They had a company commander in the first line.
Mm-hmm.
I knew both and whoever that other Captain Baker was over there. But then when they did switch to the sponsorship program, they kind of rank based it. Seventh song, first class and above,
Yeah.
you sponsor. You're married, you get a sponsor, and I was against that, and especially in the soft community where it's big boy rules over there. It's such a. We lived on a compound. Our headquarters was a compound of 80 acres, so there were people everywhere. So accountability is real quick to get lost. So that was my big thing. Was like, hey, look, okay, it's a mature environment. No hat, no salute area. You kind of have to be real mature about how you play and how you structure your organization because it'll go left and right real quick. That I will tell you.
Yeah, the sponsorship program can be very, very, if it's proactive, it can have a very positive impact on the soldier because it's a unit function, right? Where by the time you're on an assignment to another organization, you've been assigned a sponsor from the organization, and he or she reach out to you because that can have a huge impact. Because for my last assignment, I was overseas, so assigning those guys and girls come to the organization, the sponsor, I make that a priority to show, for brand new soldiers going overseas for the first time, leaving the state for the first time, even married folks. The sponsorship program has to be very, very robust to make sure that folks are integrated in the organization properly. So as you move forward, going through the ranks as a non-commissioned officer, is there any time in your career you had the desire, right, to switch over? NC want to be a warrant officer or become an officer, or you were like, this NCO thing, I'm gonna stick with being a non-commissioned officer because I just love being a non-commissioned officer.
No, in my field of metal work, and now it's called Allied Trades Tech, I did consider going warrant, and I wanted to, and I was on a glide path for it. My wife was also at the time. She was, her thing to go warrant, but it kind of ruined me because what changed my mind. Look, I will tell you, I pinned on sergeant in 1 January 1995, and that summer I was in jump master school.
As a
Yeah, I was in jump master school that summer, so I'm still thinking warrant, but it was just like once I passed jump master school and I made it first time around. I was non-reentry. I failed everything and retake again, right? But and when they were doing my paperwork, so I didn't believe it, man. I already had over 65 jumps.
Man.
I didn't even know it. So here I am, Sergeant E5 now with master wings. And once they let me PJ a 141, and I remember the C-17 had also came out. The first time I did a C-17 at the Sergeant E5 with the Corps Commander at the time, Shelton. I remember he was sitting right there, and that dude is tall. His Shelton name tag was at eye level. I'm almost 6 feet tall. And we successfully executed that jump. I was sold after that, man. I didn't want to be a warrant. I didn't want to be no officer. I wanted to be an NCO, and it didn't really matter what level it was at. I just wanted to lead and train and keep soldiers safe. I was sold after that. There was no talking about warrant. After I did that, it was over.
I tell folks, man, there's something about being in the airborne community that you cannot you cannot explain it, right? You at E5, there might be your safety, AJ or PJ, just imagine you in charge of an entire aircraft doing an airborne operation. There's something about you just cannot explain. Based on your experience, how will you describe, right, a soldier in the airborne community or in the airborne unit compared to a non-airborne unit? I mean, we all have different training, different pedigree, but from your perspective, what did you saw the difference?
The first difference that you're going to see is that I was able to jump on real quick. It's the only place that you're going to go to in the Army where from that general to that private E1, you do the same.
Yeah.
There's no differentiation like you see in other branches and things like that. In the airborne community, you volunteer for that. It's not something that's given to you. And every time you jump and exit that aircraft, what people fail to realize also, the other Army is that it's it's just waiting to happen.
Yeah.
You're either going to break a leg, um, or I've seen multiple accidents. You remember 2014, 15, everybody was getting killed with the static line and
Yeah.
JRTC. I was in the third brigade. We lost that one guy, and I was airborne commander that day, so I was part of that whole investigation. There's a level of seriousness in the airborne community with the soldiers that are there that do it for real. You see, now you can go to JRTC in an armored cav like I was in before in the aviation unit. You can fly into the field. The level of danger is not the same as you, like I know, doing one pass over Sicily, Old Dark Thirty,
Yeah.
large package, JOAC, whatever the acronym is nowadays. Like I know, when we did purple, well, you probably, I don't know if you went, we did Purple Dragon
Yeah.
in the 90s. And after that happened, I was walking 10 feet taller.
Yeah.
The whole 82nd Zoke jumped at the same time, utilizing every drop zone on Fort Bragg. I gave the 20-minute going over south of the border.
Mm.
It was, you can't beat it.
It feels good, man. It feels good. It feels good. And I tell folks, if you haven't tried before, try it. Go to airborne school, go to airborne organization. There's something about it you just cannot explain. It's just something you feel. It's just you have that level of confidence because you have the best non-commissioned officers, the best equipment. I mean, you are training nonstop. But you were trained. I think that's one thing that had us in terms of your airborne folks. Oh, you guys are too arrogant. No, it's just a level of confidence because you train to the best of your ability. And, I want to transition into some deployments because you've been down to the Gulf Wars and then OIF-1, OIF-2 in different places. How did those deployments impact you? as a leader, as a man, in terms of, you leaving your family, going overseas, going different places in harm's way, mentally, how was that for you? How did you prepare mentally? And when you came back, how were you able to transition back into your normal routine and getting ready for your next rotation?
It was different. Desert Storm, Desert Shield. I was 19 at that time, and I remember the August time frame. It was a red Corvette, and people
Red
hear
Corvette.
82nd in red Corvette, airborne corps in red Corvette, but there's very few that have actually done it.
Yeah.
And I remember we were sitting out there. I remember I was in the barracks on Smoke Bomb Hill. At that time, I was in 27th Engineer Battalion, Combat Airborne, and I remember looking out the window and the MPs putting police barricades in the all-American exits. And the MPs, they put concertina wire around the cell phones. Well, not the cell phones, street phones.
Yeah.
Wire around the street phones. I remember, what's going on. Nobody had a barracks in the TV or any of that,
Nah.
And 3 weeks later, I was there, landing,
Hmm.
because it was a different kind of fight. The task force went first, DRB or whatever they wanted to call it, set everything up, and everybody else went afterwards. And I will tell you that I felt ready at that time. I felt real confident because at that time, most of our leadership, you're talking about Zoke 1990, Vietnam had only been over
Yeah.
for maybe
Yeah.
years, 16. So I could tell you, all the battalion commanders, even the ones in the 82nd, a lot of them, a lot of the sergeants major, a lot of first sergeants, platoon sergeants were all Vietnam.
Man.
So to have that level of expertise, even though they fought in a different environment, but to have that level of expertise and that level of sincerity telling you, like, hey, look, it doesn't matter what your MOS is. It doesn't matter whether you're infantry or cook or whatever. At that time, it was either a lead feeder or a medium. And I like lettuce. I'm cool. But what they were trying to convey to us was that not everybody's going to come back in this kind of mass in the news
Yeah.
fight because it's armor. It was. So I went over there. I spent 7 months. We went aboard a town called Rafa. So I was there for the air war. I was able to watch as a 20-year-old kid, all of America's firepower from every bomber, B-1 bomber, stealth fighters. I mean, you really don't hear them. I was able to watch all of that and be at that defining moment to see all of that carnage take place from a distance. And when the ground war started, we all, it was just like New York traffic. Everybody trying to get to their objective. Rush. We sat on the side of the road, and the biggest field artillery barrage that was ever done in the history of the army or the military at that time was done. The whole core artillery, every multiple launch rocket, which was new. Nobody had ever seen that before. The artillery guys, all of them fired simultaneously at whatever old dark dirty time it was for the start of the ground war. And when we finally made it into Iraq, it was just carnage. Iraqis giving up. They were taking 12 Bravos with a strand of concertina wire, box MREs in the case of war. Hey, boom, take 10. Wrap them around this wire. If they move, you know what you got to do. And they were just leaving them. I mean, it was that many of them jokers. And then you remember the accident that occurred in Al Salman Airport.
I heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in that. I was there when it happened. And so my company commander, my platoon sergeant, squad leader, a total of 7. Company XO got half his butt blown off, and Lieutenant Plunk, which was the platoon leader, got killed. So this occurred right in front of us in an engineer accident, cleaning a minefield, all watching it. So when you return from something like that, like you did, and at that time there wasn't too many combat experienced leaders, and there was no mental health and those kind of things. I mean, you knew who the Vietnam guys were who had issues that they drank.
Yeah.
So I came back in May 1st of 1991. And my son was born 27 May.
Hey.
I got back. Junior was born. And so it did affect me, and then to stay in the unit
after everything that went on.
And then know those people and then to stay there for the memorial services and every year they want to have. So it does affect you. At that time, like I said, the military, the only thing that we had military was a fourth floor Womack.
That's it.
Whatever. You had an episode. It did affect me, and I think it did affect me promotion wise because I didn't take things. To me, after Desert Storm, Desert Shield, I find it hard to go to the field and dig foxholes when I didn't do this. I found it hard to be pressed and starched and all this other crap. So I had issues, let's put it that way. But when I did decide to get myself right, and got myself out of a messed up marriage, at that time, got custody of my son, I was able to get back on track. I did, and it took me a while to get promoted. It did. I didn't pin on sergeant until 94, as a matter of fact. So after Desert Storm, Desert Shield, I spent 4 years as a specialist struggling.
Mm.
Even though I could have got promoted, I
Yeah.
just didn't take it serious after seeing that. But once they did let me go to the board and I became promotable, I was like, you know what? I can do this. I can do this. I can recover from this. I didn't want to change my MOS because when we came back, everybody wanted to be field artillery because they saw, the MLRS. They wanted to go SF. They wanted to go air defense.
Yeah.
Bad. Everybody saw Patriots. But I'll tell you, Zoke, it was the first time in my military career that I felt like I wasn't a second-class citizen.
Mm.
Because now these meat eaters need the support and the logistics that you're providing. So I stayed in my MOS as a welderman. I never wanted to be anything else. I wasn't a door kicker. I wanted to be the one that if you needed the ammo right before you kicked in that door, one of my guys was going to give it to you, or I was going to give it to you in your environment. And I followed that model throughout the rest of the deployments. I followed that model, and it did make it easier. It did kind of justify it and make it normal, where I can still go on with life.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, man. That's something folks who have never served before don't understand what folks go through. The things you've seen in combat. No matter who you are, is going to have an impact on you. No matter if you was infected, affected, impacted directly, indirectly, is going to have some kind of impact on you, no matter what it is. Every deployment is different. Every combat is different. Every operation is different. You were exposed to both Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and then now we move forward to OIF-1, OIF-2, different fight, different enemy, different landscape. I mean, it just weaponry different, soldiers different. How will you describe, the experience you had back in the 90s now, 2003, now we have Afghanistan, Iraq going on until, up to today's point. How will you describe the operation from operational standpoint when you deploy the soldiers, the equipment, and the training you receive? If you compare both of those operational assignment being deployed, which one you said was more difficult for you, somewhat challenging, and why you think it was more difficult or challenging?
OIF was the most difficult part. That was more challenging. And I tell you that because during Desert Storm, Desert Shield, we had a whole bunch of equipment that was thoroughly tested, but it had never been used in combat. But it had been thoroughly tested. So like the M1s, the Apaches, all those things that we saw in the movies and the Rambo movies, we saw them maybe if you were in Germany or in Rodriguez Range in Korea or in an aviation post. But none of that equipment was actually seen till Desert Storm, Desert Shield. I felt comfortable once I seen what the equipment could do. I was like, you know what, nobody can beat
Yeah.
it. Now, fast forward, September 11th, I was E6 promoter. As a matter of fact, I had just made the E7 list like a week earlier. So I'm walking around big E6P in the discom area.
So what, if you don't mind me asking, where were you when September 11th happened? How did you know about it? Because I was in the motor pool on Goober Road doing command maintenance.
Yeah, I just came out the shower up in discom, and I seen everybody running inside 782nd. And I go to my truck. I had a Chevy S10, and I opened it up, and I had the old cell phone plastic like Denzel had in Philadelphia.
Yeah, the old school joint.
I called my wife. She was a staff sergeant at the time in the 20th Engineer Brigade DFAC. And I called her. No, she called me. She says, hey, a plane just hit the tower. I said, you heard from your parents? And I'm like, I said, no, I didn't hear that. I said, but that's happened in the past because, in
New York, yeah.
a plane hit the Empire State Building in the fog. So I didn't really think nothing of it. So I walk over to 782nd headquarters, go inside the conference room, and everybody's watching this madness. So now I'm panicked. Right? Go to staff duty for when I got the cold. I called my mother in Brooklyn, and the phones were dead. I was like, what? Okay. The rest of the day, madness.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was E6 promotable, and at that time, I was already. At that time, as a matter of fact, at that time, I was an E6 promotable and I was a service and recovery shop NCOIC, which is the welders, the machinists, and things like that, I remember. And we got home that afternoon and everything was crazy. My wife didn't get home too late. I didn't get home too late, picked up the kids late. And everything was touch and go after that because we were fighting a different enemy, a different kind of fight. Everybody wants to talk about Desert Storm, Desert Shield. I'm not going to marginalize that fight, though, but I'll tell you, unless you was field artillery, in my opinion, unless you were field artillery tanker or aviation or air defense, your level to the proximity of the fight was probably minimal. But for this OIF, it's like we were trying to build the plane while flying.
Yeah.
We got people leading the equipment. It's different. We were fortunate because the 82nd is always at a higher level of the receiving than anyone else. So a lot of the equipment we did have all of that, but Afghanistan kicked in. We make it through I was promotable, like I told you, right? So I'm in ANOC. This is October. I went to ANOC, yeah, a week after. So here I am. I'm in the classroom, ANOC. The commandant comes in. If you're in the 82nd Airborne Division, 10th Mountain Division, 101st,
Pack your stuff. Come and see me.
step outside. Step outside. Hey, it's your what's that school academic evaluation, whatever that was. He says, here's your form. You got to break 101st, go back 10th Mountain. 82nd, just keep your stuff in the car. So they call. So all my stuff had to stay in my POV until long story short, it didn't come.
Yeah.
So I finished ANOC. I graduated in 22 January. I remember. I get home, and right when I get home from ANOC, my wife got a tough box in the living room. What's going on? She says, "Hey, 82nd, 2nd Brigade, or was it 3rd Brigade? Anyway, it was. They needed a food service female to go deploy, so she volunteered.
She volunteers.
So she goes to Afghanistan first with 3rd Brigade. Lambert was the sergeant.
I remember big.
And so she did 6 months with the 05, and then they were replaced by the 04, and then she did 6 months over there with Kalinowski. And so once she got back, by then the Iraq kicked in.
Yeah.
We swore to each other that we weren't going to deploy together. So I stayed at home with the kids, and she deployed. At that time, I was a first sergeant as an East. So I was the Foxtrot Company 782nd first sergeant. She came back. We were going to deploy. The new battalion commander didn't want an E7 in position. Said, okay, whatever, put an E8 in there. You know how to do. Up in DISCOM, and I was at DISCOM S3 NCOIC. You remember Sergeant Major Muhammad, Regimental Sergeant Major of the Ordnance Corps. He was my platoon sergeant in 87, 82nd, and the 90s. So as soon as there was a DISCOM ops, he said, I want Silva up here to be the NCOIC. So I went up to DISCOM, and I deployed with them for the initial OF with DISCOM as a DISCOM operations sergeant. I went to Iraq with them in 03 when OIF was hitting. So my wife came back. We swapped kids, swapped hand receipts. Now I go. So laugh at that one. You remember we went to Ali Al Salim, and then we were at TQ out to Cotter Airfield. No up armors, though.
Soft skin Humvees, yeah. Put some sandbags in the back.
No plates. I'm over here. I'm like running around. I'm like, yo, who's a welder? Who's a 44B? Any 44Bs? I got some diamond plate. I said, look, we got a contact truck. I can cut this stuff up. We can weld plates. We can do like I did in Desert Storm, Desert Shooting. You ever saw the up armor do something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do those, as a matter of fact. My welding section, those vehicles are 27th Engineer Battalion up armor and half with the sandbags. We did that at Desert Storm, Desert Shield. So there was already a blueprint for it. But the problem was all the equipment was just coming so fast, and we're trying to learn how to fight an enemy and support the fight while getting new equipment. So it was tough. It was tough. We made it. I made it all the way to CSS Kenya. You remember that place? O'clock in the morning during the convoy, I'm asleep on my Humvee hood, man. Well, a lot of people don't even know this, but I was asleep in my Humvee hood, and some soldier who didn't know that this was reverse and not first. And what he did, he backed up a 20-foot trailer with a bobtail, man, and he crushed my leg between the knee and the ankle.
Yeah.
Smashed it, bro. So I got sent back early, and we deployed in September. I was home by Christmas.
Oh, okay.
So I spent pretty much 2024, man, in physical therapy because I was getting ready to get separated. Laugh at this, bro. I'm an E7. By this time, my wife had already been accepted to the WAC, getting ready to go to the WAC. And they getting ready to chapter me as an E7 medically.
Because your leg, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of hard pill to swallow, though, man. I had to recover real quick and go through physical therapy. And they gave me a full exam PT test, and I passed it. And they let me stay in. But we're not even supposed to know each other, man. I should have been out then.
But you just said something that was pretty profound, right? Because the Army Military Corporal Program came in, years ago, whatever the case may be. And a lot of us, I had some friends who both they and their spouse were serving at the same time. As you said, you deploy, you come back, the spouse go forward. How did you and your spouse your wife kind of manage that? Because that has to be a logistical nightmare away from the kids. You know what I'm saying? One person in, one person out. How were you guys able to manage that? What are some advice can you give to folks currently that are both serving and have kids in the military?
First thing I will tell you is the Army Married Couples Program is for real. You have to be in the Army Married Couples Program, MACP, whatever it is you want to call it. Your wife and you have to be on the same sheet of music and standardize as far as how you want your career path to be.
Yeah.
And like, okay, do I do my broadening assignment now, or do you do your broadening assignment? When do I go to the ANOCs and the WOCs and Warrant Officer Advanced courses? 'Cause, I mean, my wife and I had to kind of like manage that. Look, I can't go to Warrant Officer Career Management here because you go on the first on course. I mean, it was a lot, but we were both senior, and then we had real good kids that understood, like, hey, look, me and your mother's here, man. We got kind of like a real important job, so there's no time for madness. We were on post a couple, and it was like, hey, look, you kind of got to behave yourself because mommy and daddy, we kind of do these jobs. So we managed it. It wasn't easy. And as it got older, we got into a routine. I mean, okay, you're going to you got to go to a food service convention in hell somewhere when such and such. But I got to go to Sergeant Major Conference up at Fort Lee.
Yeah.
We managed it, and it worked. It worked. But what we did tell each other was that we were not going to deploy together. I saw a lot of spouses.
Yeah.
We said no. Somebody has to be with both of these kids at all times, and it worked, thank goodness. It did work. Assignments, we were always together. Army Married Couples program, you have to have it because, we went to drum together. We were at Bragg together. We went to Florida together. We PCS'd within proximity, and it worked perfect if it's planned.
That's pretty good, okay? It comes down to really, both you guys talking to those assignment managers in different places. Sometimes you can't control it, but it also, has to do with the command team at both organizations. Because sometimes I've seen where I have soldiers who both of them was married, of course, in the military, in the brigade that I was in, of course, and we try to make sure we manage that properly to where, at least somebody's home. And if the command team is assisting, that can go pretty smoothly because it's kind of terrible to have both parents deploy or conducting field training exercise. I understand the mission has to be accomplished, but you have to be very realistic about it to help soldiers and their spouses. Moving forward, now you select to go to the academy. I can't believe we went to the academy. We went what, 2015? Jesus Christ, we getting old, man.
Yeah.
So when you went to the academy, after you got selected for the academy, when you got there, I know things have changed because we 66. I think it's like what, class 74, 75 now. I don't know what it is these days. Yeah, things have changed. When you went to the academy, did you went in with any expectations? And when you got there, was it what you expected it to be? And how will you describe your experience overall for that year you were there?
The experience for me, I would tell you, Zoke, it was great. I never thought as USASMA as a waste of time.
Yeah.
I'm a people person. I always have been. So I took maximum opportunity in USASMA to network. I knew I was going to be a support sergeant major in the BSB, FSB, or GSB somewhere in soft. So I took that time in USASMA to connect.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a time like, we knew every division sergeant major in the Army.
Yeah.
At 4-star level classmates now. So I took maximum opportunity to meet people. I took maximum opportunity to deal with the international students, and I saw them overseas as well. I learned a lot in school from the institutional and strategic domains, I will tell you, because you stay in the tactical domain too long, like some of us did, and everything is deploy or prepare to deploy. What happens when there is none of that? Now you have to be mad, because you might be a garrison sergeant, you might, those things. I enjoyed it. A lot of people thought it was a waste of time. Some people said it was a waste of time. I remember in the 82nd, I forget what that sergeant Knowles had all of us who made the list that year. You remember you were there because he said something to the effect of, we're not sending nobody to the academy. You're going to go non-res and blah, blah, blah. And I remember SMA Daly was there and was like, no, they're going to Sassafras.
Yeah.
Glad he did. I'm going to tell you, because you needed that year to decompress from the tactical space. I enjoyed it. I'm not going to lie to you. I got to meet a lot of good people during that 11 months who I built connections and relationships with afterwards.
Yeah.
And we still talk today. So for me, it was great. Some people I know didn't care for it, but I didn't have a problem.
I felt the same way. My time there, I do believe, was very productive. I mean, it's all about what you put into it, really. I didn't went into the academy with that preconceived notion or just a waste of time, whatever. No. Because what folks fail to realize is the academy is not going to teach you to be a CSM or staff sergeant major. No, it's about networking. But like you say, for 10 months to a year, build this relationship, learn some things, because a lot of folks are not exposed to joint operation after which you switch those different departments. And one person that had a significant impact on me was two people, right? I had a Sergeant Major Williams at the time. He was in my core class. I forgot, he GTD or something. As an instructor. And Miss Williams, DCL.
Yeah, I remember Miss
Yeah,
Williams.
she had a very profound impact on me. And as she stated so far is that, folks have to understand. I would recommend anybody who's selected to go to the academy. If you can go to the academy, go. I'm not trying to take away from the non-resident course, but if you can go to the academy, go to the academy. Because you will meet different folks, as you said, international students from different places. You can make contact with those guys and girls. But just being at the academy alone is a whole new different feeling. You know what I'm saying? So it's very, 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 very essential that folks take it seriously. When you left the academy, you went down the organization. Now you're a battalion guy, an operation guy or CSN. How was that? How was that for you then? Because back in the old days, folks used to go to the academy, graduate, go back as an E8. But when we went through, we got frocked and then went back to the battalion or CSN, whatever the case may be. But how was it for you getting back, to the conventional army now, and then you see your CSN, your sergeant major now, trying to manage what's happening?
I tell you, there was anxieties or maybe apprehensiveness because I saw that a lot in school.
Yeah.
A lot of classmates, who made it real early, like yourself, in your case, you were real mature. I mean, because we watched you from afar, like, hey, this is the next diff body, so I made it world type stuff. But I will tell you that the maturity level was awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People that can make it when they're young. When I went to Sergeant Major Academy, the first day we all arrived, dude, I already had 26, almost 27.
Yeah.
6 years. So I wasn't worried. I graduated like we all did. I was a master sergeant for 11 years. I
Man.
was the first sergeant. I pinned on the E8 in 2000. I pinned on first sergeant and I made the 2004 list. I pinned on first sergeant in 2005. I didn't pin on sergeant major till we graduated in 16. The point is that the 11, 10 years as the E8, by the time I did pin on sergeant major and go into 528, the Special Operations Sustainment Brigade, I was confident
Yeah.
that I could do the job. And I think there were more people worried about me being in the soft community than I was. Because, like I tell people, the soft community is no different than any other one. You have a minimum standard and a maximum.
Yeah.
Now, appearance, dress, facials, okay, you're going to get that minimum standard. It's going to happen. You can fight about it if you want to, but where you're going to get the maximum output is to shoot, move, communicate, and survive.
Yeah.
When it comes to shoot, move, communicate, and survive, these guys will give you hundreds of percentages. I mean, I saw stuff in that community, man, that was just like, wow. Because it's not that you're supporting the JRTC rotation. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But in these communities, there's a fight going on that these people are prosecuting
Yeah.
and are involved. I enjoyed that immensely. I enjoyed being able to sit down and listen to the joint briefings because it is a joint environment and you're dealing with everything. I was just like, you could tell that I was a newbie. People were like, holy smokes, Army, you know what I mean? Like, you're like excited. I'm like, yeah.
Let's go.
And we're supporting something real.
Yeah.
No budgetary constraints, no weaponry constraints. I carry, you can tell the difference between me and Delta Force over there because everybody wears the same.
Yeah.
Problem with all this good equipment, and that's where the discipline comes in. Everybody wants to be SF until it's time to be SF. And that's where I had the issues in that community as a battalion sergeant major, where I had to learn real quick what the left and right limits are. Because if you think as a battalion sergeant major, you're gonna come and take over a battalion in the soft community,
It's not going to happen.
No. People gonna like, okay, we don't operate in this manner, and there's a level of decorum and an experience that's warranted. But once we got that out the way, it was great.
That's
I
good.
tell you, I had the soft community. There is no company first sergeant, so all my companies had sergeant majors and company commanders with
Majors. Yeah.
So I had 5, 6 sergeant majors at my disposal, and I would tell you, Zoe, they were awesome. We got along great. Most of them were X-rays and had never been in the conventional army. So when it came to DA photos, hey, Bill, bring your DA photo down.
I got you.
And we helped each other, man, and it was awesome. I will tell you, a lot of people that have never been in the soft community, they think of relaxed grooming standards, and it's no such thing. It's operational and non-operational. Before you deploy, you can let it go, and when you come back, it comes off. Unless you're in that side, tier 1, and then you're like that all the time.
Yeah.
But it's a good place to be in, and I had a ball. I enjoyed it.
One thing that I saw, man, was that academy that I observed. Because I love to observe people. One thing that I observed of you, you were very humble. I said, when I was in the academy, when I saw you, you was a very humble person, because you had, like you said, a lot of young cats was in the academy, of course, but you moved differently. I mean, we've seen some classes sometimes, and I saw you in the master bedroom, of course, asking different questions, whatever. You didn't walk around with some level of arrogance because you've been in the army a little bit longer than some folks. You're very, 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 very humble. So I really appreciate that for you. Transition is something I want to talk about, man, because that's something a lot of folks don't really, focusing on. And that's the reason why transition can be very difficult for a lot of folks, to include myself, because I kind of dropped the ball already when it comes to my transition. How was it for you? Because I want to look at 2 part, right? From the medical standpoint, now you about to transition, because you and I can agree, being on jump starters, sick call, it's not happy. I'm not going on a sick call. I'm hurt my ankles, hurt my back. I'm not going on a sick call because I got to jump. I got, operation overall execute. So we don't really focus on our medical well-being, mental well-being, whatever the case may be. So when you were going through your transition process, how was the medical side for you? And then overall, you have the family side, then you got a transition completed out. How was that for you? How did you navigate that? Do you believe that you was prepared to transition the time for which you transitioned?
I was very fortunate in the transition portion. It went very well because in the soft community, um, it's not that structured. Prime example, as soon as I got there in 17, the soft PAs and things like that, you have your own physical therapy centers, you have your own gym, everything. Your clinic, it looks like Robinson.
Man.
So when I started transitioning and going through that aspect, especially after the accident and they medically terminated me, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays was physical therapy pretty much until I transitioned.
Man.
So medical part, I started the year out, and I had a lot of good mentors, especially in that community, because it's real small footprint.
Yeah.
The only thing you have is seventh group, the EOD school, and Jungle Phase or Ranger School, pretty much. And then Eglin Air Force Base. So first I attended an executive TAP, which surprised the hell out of me, right? I'm like, okay, executive
Yeah.
TAP, right? And they say, hey, Charmaine, you want to go to the executive TAP? And I said, you know what? Since I'm executive now, and I've always never treated myself too serious, and a lot of my peers they used to get mad at me. It's like, damn, Silver, you're kind of too chill. No, it's not that I'm kind of too chill. It's that I'm kind of confident. I already know that I'm the senior enlisted leader. You're the advisor. Now check it out real quick. I don't advise anyone. I'm the senior leader who advises the battalion commander. So I was mature, went in there, and in the executive TAP was 06s and above, 9s and above. So I'm in there with a few admirals and captains in the Navy and Air Force. Let me get it right. Command Chief Master Sergeants. But these Air Force Command Chief Master Sergeants were Air Force Tier 1 guys. So
Man.
they're Air Force operators.
Yeah.
All of us are operators, support and all that. And so we went through the big things that matter. So I was fortunate to go through that TAP, but the best TAP that I went to is the regular local one
Mm.
that taught me Zoke everything. And then, I'm a fact checker. I was in an environment that was conducive because when I passed the guide on, I had 10 months to my exit date.
Man.
And the group, they just said, check it out real quick. You're retiring with 32 years. I don't even want to see you unless it's a urinalysis or you come in to check in. So every appointment, and I had a lot of them during my transition. I had about 12 appointments. I had, you name it, everything under the sun. Actually, they even found things that I never knew was wrong with
Yeah.
me during the transition process. So they found the herniated disc in my back from the tailbone and that. They found out that the 140 jumps actually caused TBI from the
Yeah.
jawline, which makes me sometimes drive past my house and I don't even know where I'm at. I get lost big time over that. I still, struggle with that. It was a time, man, to uncover everything that was wrong with me. It was an opportunity to get everything fixed before you run out of title and position. And that's why I tell a lot of people, and this is more jokingly, as a sergeant major, you can use your position to obtain pleasure, profit, and number one at the line.
Now personal safety, huh?
Exactly. You can use the title and position, and it may sound
Yeah.
crazy to some. Well, retired, there's no more of that. Now you're just regular schmo,
Yep.
and I've never had a problem with being regular schmo. So, but a lot of us, do, and it's a real big. It's if you ever been to the Richmond VA, you see a lot of. It's far away from here, so I got community care, so I don't go up there. But the one time I did, it was a fashion show. I'm a retired
Yeah.
person. I'm like,
Nobody cares, brother. Thanks for your service. We appreciate you. Take care of yourself. Get your stuff done. Let that stuff go.
so it wasn't an issue for me demilitarizing. I did that well. I retired first, so it was a blessing because I was able to assist my wife during her transition.
Okay.
Answer a lot of questions. So I went through it twice. My transition And then we planned it. I moved up here first while she was transitioning. She cleared quarters. She retired Halloween Day 21. So I didn't have an issue with transition, but I did hear a lot of horror stories. I did hear things like some of our battle buddies and peers out there who retired and forgot that money's not going to be on the bank on payment.
Yeah, first and the 15, it stops.
Yeah, you got to go through that transition. It has to go through that underwriting where they check to make sure you don't owe any money. So my money wasn't there on the first. My money wasn't there till the seventh because I did almost 32.
Yeah,
So it's an audit system. A lot of veterans didn't know
yeah,
that, right? So I planned for that. Things like taxes. When you're in the army, they take it out for you. But when you're retired, you have to do that yourself. And a lot of us jump into the job market. Okay, we still getting retirement. Let's put it this way: the tax bills will mount up on
real
you,
quick.
right?
Yeah,
Because it occurred to a lot of our peers, and it happened to me too with a couple of things. But I heard the horror stories about a lot of us working till the last day, and I'm in the community like you are on LinkedIn, and I tell people, man, if your organization is pendant on you being there to make it work,
that's a problem.
the leadership is in
Yeah,
effect.
that's a problem.
I started a year out, but I had an operations sergeant who was an actual sergeant, Green Beret, and I had two company Green Beret sergeant majors who were conventional before. They weren't X-rays. That's what I told them. If you're gonna send me a Green Beret guy, something like that, that was one of my criteria. Was I don't want an X-ray. I want somebody who's been conventional. So I was blessed with
Yeah,
that. The guy that I had was conventional. The other guy that I had after was an X-ray, and he was awesome too. You know. So I was blessed where I could do anything I want. Hey, Bill, hey, you want assumption of responsibility orders, bro? And then that helped them also get their little CSM
yeah,
time. So I was blessed. If I could tell anybody, plan a year out, go to TAP twice, contact your local VFW and speak to them because guess what? I did in Florida. And they told me about a lot of things. I didn't join them then, but they told me a lot of things about how the local VFW service officer can help you with claims. You don't have to pay a lawyer and all these crazy
yeah.
things you hear. So my experience was well. I don't know how your experience was in the conventional side, but mine, I was fortunate, man. They didn't work me till the last day.
That's pretty good.
And,
I think because of the atmosphere and the climate you guys created over there on the regular army, I'm telling you, sometimes it comes down to the command team. And I tell folks, if a soldier is considered a new loss, you're going to lose them. They're going to transition out. ETS retired. Give them time to transition out. Don't try to keep them out for last training, field training, exercise. Let them go. Let them train because you're going to lose them anyway. Give them time to transition out. So, but that's pretty good because you hear some good stories. You hear some very terrible stories in terms of people transitioning. I want to go. You just talked about it earlier, the VFW, right? Because I am a lifetime member of the VFW. That's what we're discussing. I got to tap into it a little bit more to some of the meetings around here to my station point. How was it for you? Because a lot of folks retire, from the military, get back to the workforce and do something different, volunteer differently. But you look at the VFW as a place to go because the VFW, as you stated, is considered a VSO, Veteran Service Organization. They do a lot of things. But for
yeah,
some reason, the perception out there, the VFW is where we just go hang out and play cards and get drunk, whatever the case may be. But the VFW is way more than that. Can you talk about the VFW a little bit and what are you guys doing and how can folks that are transitioning veteran tap into the VFW to assist them in different areas?
yeah. And I will tell you, Zoe, the VFW. So what I did when I retired, it started in the academy, right? So you remember the VFW, the academy, Alves and them
Yeah.
who passed away, and all that. So I got communicated with them when I was there. And I didn't join them, but I hung out there a lot, like a lot of us did for the spaghetti nights and stuff like that.
Spaghetti nights.
So I maybe retired Al Hobbs, sat down, and one day was talking about it. And he didn't try to sell it to me, but what he did was he said, "This is what they do. This is," and he was the post commander. "This is what I do." And so I had a situational awareness on it. But you know how you do when you graduate from there, you're trying to get into the force
Hmm.
and do your sergeant major stuff. So when I moved up here, my wife told me, she said, "Look, there's a VFW post that's been there for years." You know what I mean? Like I said, how long? 100 years. Anyway, so I go down there and walk in like your normal VFW, bar, slot machines, stuff like that. They got a big banquet hall. So I go in there and speak to the guy interested in becoming a member, blah, blah, blah. The normal stuff like you did. I went to the meeting and they're looking at the DD Form 214 and looking at me. And I'm fortunate because you like you are, you look young. Average person
Yeah,
is
the
too young
VFW look
straight.
much older. Yeah.
Sergeant major retired at the brigade level. Yeah. So same thing here. I'm 50, getting ready to be 55. So everybody's looking at me like, how many years did you do? I said, well, I'm 50, whatever. I'm retired sergeant major. Once we got past all that drama, which I like, then the VFW here normally, donated to, school supplies and things like that, like your normal stuff. But one of the things that once I became part of the administration and we started sitting down and they wanted a new junior vice, which is like the XO. So I volunteered. I'm retired.
Yeah.
My wife, we don't work. We just are going to enjoy however many years we got left. We did our careers together in the military, so we're gonna do fun stuff.
Yes, you have to, man. You have to.
So the VFW here, we do a lot of things, man. We have a service officer who assists with claims. We've assisted veterans, especially during COVID. We kind of changed it a little bit. People behind on mortgages, people behind on cars, veterans now, and everybody thinks that for the VFW, you have to be a combat veteran, and it is a veteran of a foreign war. But guess what? If you got a armed forces, if you have a Korean Defense Service Medal, qualifies you to be the VFW.
Yeah.
Everybody's in this big hype nowadays. You know how we do.
Mm-hmm.
The measurement contest with us. It never was with me because when September 11th kicked off, the only people that had combat patches were Desert Storm, Desert Shield.
Yeah.
And I was one of them. I never felt any more better than anybody else. I was just at the right place at the right time. So the VFW is not like that anymore. Where you deployed to. I was in Vietnam, and hey, look, I don't care where you were at. If you're not a command sergeant major, you're just not at that level. And I had to do that once or twice, just to talk to those veterans that never got enough. The ones that never got enough. Just, once we got past that, assist veterans, dude. We assist people with car repairs, man. There's been veterans, man, cars dead on the street.
Man.
Hey, I don't got the money to fix it. I can't go to work. Okay, who's the shop? This shop. How much is it? Hey, charitable donation.
That's amazing, though. That's amazing.
So Memorial Days, I was the keynote speaker this year. Again, like I told you that one time, everybody likes to hear speeches about people that they knew that died. Okay, that's part of Memorial Day or whatever you want to call it, what it was called back then. But let's talk about those of us that are killing ourselves after the war.
Yeah.
22 of them. The invisible wounds. It was a different kind of speech. People were like, well, I've never thought about it that way. Yeah. Because the drama with invisible wounds is you never know when it's going to
happen. Yeah.
You never know, like me. So I showed you the camera where I live at. It's beautiful here, man. And I tell you, I'll be driving some days, man. Damn, I just drove past this woman standing in front of the house. That's my wife. That kind of stuff, you know what I mean? The VFW, man, we assist, appointments. There's so much other than drinking. Yeah, the Michelob Ultras are $2. Yeah, you can go $10. But what I like about the one here, it's about veterans. And it's kind of a joint environment here because the post commander and everybody are Marines. You got Navy guys, submariners. I've never had to deal with submarine guys. Navy, Force, Vietnam veteran. We have an Army Vietnam veteran. We have a guy who was on the dark side in the Air Force. We just got a new guy who was in the dark side of the Army. And the camaraderie shit, man. We got a lot in common because there's more OIF guys, And like I told them in the past, a lot of the things that resonate with me might not resonate with a lot of these young soldiers because I remember the Vietnam vets. So I enjoy talking to them. But if you got somebody who just came in 2000 and has been deployed, what does he have in common with a Vietnam vet? He does. He can't, So the VFW here, we have a lot more OIF, OEF vets. And so we have a younger crowd now. And a younger crowd and more people means we can do more.
Yeah.
We donated to 100 school bags for first day of school. We've donated to the local boxing club 3 years ago. Now the boxing team members went to nationals. As a matter of fact, we have a professional boxing event here in Charlottesville that the VFW donated to. And I will tell you, most people like you and me, the VFW in Fayetteville, I only went there to dance and go party like we used to. Drink 40s and stuff, but it's more than that. And with the current political climate and people are in their feelings and stuff like that, I'm gonna tell you, I haven't been to a BFW that cares about any of that. Very welcoming. I walked in there, hey, my name is so and so, shook my hand, hey, we want some coffee, blah blah blah. My wife, Chief Silva, she's been in there, she's a member, but she's not an active participant. You know what I mean? But she's gone in there and sat down and hey, like, hey, Chief, boom, It's a good environment. If you need somewhere where they will give you instantaneous resources.
That's pretty good, man. That's how it's supposed to be. All of those veteran organizations kind of help, we just got to put some time into it. I have to take the time myself, make sure I go out to my area here and get involved in some of those meetings and stuff like that, man. So I appreciate you, man. Really, it means a lot to me. Thanks for what you're doing in terms of the VFW area, the things you're doing. Thanks for your leadership. Thanks for everything you're doing. So we wrap up here. If you have any advice for a person, no matter what rank, right, that is currently serving or a veteran, well, what advice would you share with them?
For the current active duty personnel, I will tell them, and I'm speaking to our peers, especially the ones that are still out there on the force. I will tell them that as long as your wife and children support you and you're physically and mentally able to still keep up and lead, train, mentor, and all that stuff, God bless you. Keep on going. But if you can't do any of those things and they're not circling the wagons around you so you can get out there and do our work, then you got to tap it out. Because I travel, I've been to Fort Bragg lately, I've been to Fort Lee, and I've seen a lot of happy us's running around out there. And I will tell you, when I pinned on what we pinned on, that was the most significant emotional event in my life because I should have never made it. I tell you right now, I got kicked out of PLDC. I got kicked out of BC. I got a gold mark from Brigadier General William E. Ward, Kip Ward,
Man,
Deputy Commander General of the 82nd. I beat the rap on appeal because everything's appealable.
yeah,
But the problem is that I've had my struggles in the military, and I will tell people have an exit plan too. If you're going to stay in the force and you're a peer out there, I will tell you, as long as your family supports you, like I said before, continue to march. Hell, do 50 years if they let you. But the day you start becoming a part of the problem and you can't enforce standards, because I did it old, but I was fortunate that I was still maxing my PT test in my late 40s. I was still a physical beast in my imagination until I got hurt on that jump. So definitely think about that if you plan on staying in for the peers. Because, for the little soldiers, everything is easy. Be in the right uniform.
yeah,
Not that they're not important. But for us, you and I, and then have an exit plan. For those of you who are and don't work till the last day. I was fortunate at Drum at that time to have the outgoing brigade commander, Colonel Millie, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Never spoke to him, but as I was getting to be a first son, he was leaving. And one of the things that I remember that he always talked about, that model, and I used it. If you're going to be a leader in the Army, you got to decide early on if you want to get promoted or you want to be happy, because you're not going to be both. Okay. It's going to incur some happiness you trying to navigate through the ranks and get promoted and do your job with a family. You're going to have to navigate. And then the exit plan. Know that this thing is going to come to an end, whether at 20, voluntarily or involuntarily, because that's what we're in right now. Have an exit plan. The medical records, it's not about the size of the medical record, it's about the size of the treatment. People coming in there with stacks like this, none of that means a thing. What did you do to treat? And then the last thing I will tell you is whatever shape you think you are in right now is not the same shape you're going to be in when you retire physically and mentally. Now, last year alone, double hand, double elbow surgery in my left foot from stuff that I didn't take care of when I was in. Because you want to lead, follow, you want to do whatever. All good things come to an end. But definitely have an exit plan and don't stay in past your limitations. We all know what our limitations are because I definitely stayed in past mine with this whole airborne thing. Just stopped a long time ago, but I didn't. And always, man, like I said before, I appreciate opportunities like this. You were one of the young ones in school, like a couple of the other ones that were there. I remember. I heard your name from the Boom Boom and Chief and field artillery guys. We had a large conglomerate in our class of Fort Bragg, Boom Boom, 319th, Loyalties, and whatever.
yeah.
I mean, so
That's us.
it was great being in school with you all and to be able to watch you navigate and go from battalion to brigade. And I commend you for making the decision to like we all have to do and do the exit. But like I know, man, if you would have stayed in, you'd have been like some 4-star level dominant strategic theater.
Nah. I appreciate you, man. Really, I really appreciate you, man, for coming on here and really sharing some of your experiences. And usually echo the same sentiment to everybody, man. This is our platform, and if we didn't talk about, we can set up another time, man. You can come up here, we can discuss it. I really appreciate what you're doing in terms of the VFW because that's the area we kind of forget. I tell folks we are serving, but once you transition, it's a different war out here, and the VFW and the DAV and American Legion, those organizations out there helping veterans and stuff. We have to promote them. most especially if they're doing well. And I guess I've been exposed to the VFW since I've been out, in and out. They're doing a wonderful job. But thanks for what you're doing, man. I really appreciate you, brother. Thank you for your service again. And I'll talk to you soon.